Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's and the end of Dark Month. But it's not the end, so keep tuned, guys, because today we're going to be drawing the Angel of Death, and as always, we'll be listening to some more from the Comic Historian in the background. So if you enjoy any of the Comic Historian, do definitely let me know. I will let you know where you can get those. But my name is Blut084, BLUT084. And today, like I said, we're going to be drawing or sketching the first go of the Angel of Death. This is for Nicole Jean once again, as this whole month has been creating her characters for her book. If you want to find out any more about her, again, let me know in the comment section, or live here now, or down below. Or if you're new to the channel, definitely click that subscribe button. I've got a few images and things that I've got loaded up onto the computer, but I've got a fair idea what Nicole wants. Hopefully she will join me today and we'll have another chat about what and where things should be going. But it's not the general Angel of Death that you would imagine with the skull and the robes and things. I think I might put the character in robes, but not so much in a robe, shall we say, in such as a robe as like a dark and dangerous and evil robe. Give me a second. I'll get a reference image to what I would do. Now, this is something I did a while back, and I thought to myself, I wanted to do that one again for her, but she doesn't like, she wants more of a heroic pose, like a handsome sort of chap that is the Angel of Death. I think is like a fallen angel is her character. I don't know much about the character, but there is more explanation on her actual website. Sorry, not web. Well, I think she's got a website now. Again, let me know down below if you want to know anything about that. I'm still finding out about that website, and again, this is going to be the last week for Nicole. So if you guys want anything drawn yourself, or if you got an idea for next month's theme, which is fireworks, because the first drawing that will be done in that month of not next month will be V for Vendetta. And if you don't know what he's based on, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, so you know when I started, because I'll give you an explanation who V for Vendetta is. And remember, the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason plot, because that is when I will be doing, hopefully, the end or the digitization. It all depends on how much time I've got to do this today. But I'm going to give Nicole a quick nudge to say you need to come on over and give me some information. But while I do that, why don't you guys listen to the Comic Historian in the background once again and let me know what you think. And if you want to hear anything in particular. Today we're going to be listening to The Ghost Rider.
It's time for the true Ghost Rider. I mean, come on. I like Robbie Reyes, but no one tops Johnny Blaze, the one true original Ghost Rider. We're going to bring you a classic story, the Ghost Rider story written by Daniel Way. And in this storyline, we begin our tale with Johnny Blaze in hell. Let's get him out of there. Home. A flaming skull sits staring at the road in front of him. The darkness of the void in his eye sockets, and as he leans back on his motorcycle, he pops a wheelie, kicking open the doors to hell, shouting, "Yes!" The Ghost Rider blazes out of the doors of hell, and he turns back to look at the demons, but instead of demons, he sees the devil looking back at him. Johnny Blaze, the host of the Ghost Rider, realizes that he didn't escape hell. Once again, it was a trick from the devil, as the devil tells him, "Sucker." Johnny lets the bike hit the ground as he falls to his knees, shouting, "No!" Staring at the ground defeated, Johnny tells himself, "Face it, you're never going to get out of hell. The devil won, he beat you. But this is Johnny Blaze, and with the power of the Ghost Rider, he slams his fist into the ground. No! Where he hit is a lowly maggot of a life form, a digger, a being sent to hell to expand the pit. Johnny picks him up by the throat and stares at the terrified little creature. Enjoying the show, you little freak. The creature panics. No, I'm not here to! And Johnny drops him because the horsemen of the devil are riding in to try and stop him. Johnny brings his arm back, flinging his chain behind him, telling himself that he's sick of running. Let them come.
Like I said, guys, we're going to be doing the Angel of Death, and I'm going to be using a few reference pictures. I'm just grabbing them up now and getting Nicole's information, so bear with me. And as always, guys, this will be a lengthy video, so if you're joining me to listen to the thing, don't forget that you can fast forward towards the end if you're catching back. Good morning, Nicole. How are you?
As Johnny Blaze rides and
setting this.
It wraps around the maggot and he rides off, leaving a fiery trail behind him. Johnny whips the chain, bringing the maggot up to the front of the bike.
We've got Ghost Rider in the background today.
You saved me, right? Johnny tells him, not yet. And he throws the maggot onto the back of his bike. Hold on. And the maggot...
So I know there's a few images you sent me, but I like the skull, I like the flaming skull, but that's not what you wanted. What I'm thinking is doing a half and half. So we've got half sort of demonized skull and half human handsome guy, if that's something you're interested. Something similar, I'm kind of drawing in for inspiration from this here. This is something I painted many moons ago now, but the half and half, the Angel of Death sort of thing. What do you think of that?
You can take an exit. And as they get to the end of the cave, Johnny turns back to the maggot and he only finds the devil, smiling. You really fall for it every time, don't you, Johnny? See you on the other side, sucker. He lets Johnny fall through the boundary of hell, escaping it, finally. And on the surface, there's an explosion off of the ocean. And then the dead rise, and they begin to walk on the water. And Johnny rides with them. Some time passes, and Johnny is on the road, pushing his motorcycle down the highway. He's alive and thankful for that. But there is...
I'm assuming you got your coffee. I'm a lot later today. I've only got about half an hour to an hour, depending off what time my son comes home today. He's got his phone back, so I'm assuming he's going to go downtown with his friends and play a bit of Pokemon Go before he comes home from school. But I don't think he's not gonna be coming home on time. I don't think. But if he does, I will have to end the stream, as you all know. But I will be back tomorrow earlier than normal if I have to finish early today.
He realizes his mistake as she kicks him in the nuts. This isn't Lucifer playing a trick on him. He made a mistake.
Okay, so I've got, as always, we've got a normal pencil sharpener, and that's for your H2, H pencils, HB pencils. I generally use a H2. And I lost the other one again. So I think the H, got H and H2. One's heavy, one's very heavy. Yeah, I've lost that one. That one's on walkies. Not with my dog, hopefully.
He walks into the bathroom and he gives himself a clean shave and he cuts his hair. And outside, a van from a funeral home.
That doesn't matter because I'll be using my mechanical pencil, which has got more detail to it.
Is that clear? Good. A crying child.
Which is this one here. If you haven't seen a mechanical pencil before, all it is basically is it's got lead, like a fine lead at the very end. You don't need to sharpen it. All you got to do is pump the top. I won't pump it now because it's obviously already out. It's kind of like using a needle's edge, and it's absolutely brilliant. Best pencil I've ever used, and again, just a bog standard, which you need to sharpen.
The corpse turns to the light.
To get great detail, I will be using my mechanical pencil, but just to get the faint outline of what I want to be doing, I'm going to be using my trusty pencil.
He walks out of the diner telling the devil, not so tall.
I found my other fine line pens as well, which is really handy. I'm not sure which ones of them work, but a lot of them ran out. But I'll be trying to use those as well in the next piece of art because I want to give this one a bit more depth, other than just using my fine line pens. That one's blue and this one's black, but I've noticed this one leaves a bit more of a smudgy edge. So I'll try not. I will be using this one as always, but not as much, hopefully, because I found my other pens. So Nicole, I need a picture from you, what you want before I start, really, because this is for you, and this is the last week of Dark Month, so let's try and get a good one.
The devil stands up. What's it going to be, Johnny? The innocence or me? Tick-tock, tick-tock, time's up. The devil pulls out some matches, but inside of the van, the woman...
What kind of pose we having? I'm thinking of just a bog standard and no legs if I can avoid it. Just have like a flames here. Maybe flames here. And it's going to be sort of standing in a in a pose.
Then more cars arrive, trying to run over Johnny, with more people in them who have glowing yellow eyes. Don't worry, Johnny, you'll get another chance. 665 to be exact. And all of the cars leave as Johnny shouts out, "No!" And then in a whoosh, Johnny is gone. And he is now standing in a graveyard with a ball of white light in front of him. Hello, my name is...
Maybe half and half, so like a skull side here.
Further involvement with Lucifer will only make the situation worse. You must stop
And like a happy duty face here.
And then he flings his chain. Nice try.
The next 45 minutes,
Adverts?
changed my life.
Give me a second.
My name is Dustin.
I do apologise again that we've been starting a lot later today. What I found is my computer had a little bit of pumpkin juice dribble onto it, and it hasn't worked properly since. So hopefully it won't break altogether, and this stream won't break like the last one I tried to put out, which was yesterday. If you didn't check out, the past few days I've been doing some pumpkins, making some masks, which is 2 pieces of the jaw move, so you've got things to be able to create for that time.
Throwing them into him. Strange blows up the pile of rubble on himself, shouting, "Enough!"
So definitely go and check those out.
But now I see that you are beyond
And maybe a bit
he
some
gets into
wings.
a martial arts fighting.
It's going to have wings, obviously, so
that's how you're
like
going to
wings
take me
here.
out. Kung Fu. Strange shouts, "I'm not Lucifer!" And Johnny breathes fire all over him. Liar! As Strange casts a spell, a beam of light drops from the sky, hitting Johnny. Strange walks over to him to find only a skeleton where the Ghost Rider was. And that skeleton has no life in it. Johnny in his own head is trying to figure out what happened. He can't move, he can't hear. Did he die? The chain
I
rises
did
up
have a
and
picture
grabs
already
the wrapping
on my
around
PC,
Strange.
but as I had to shut down my PC. I'm going to try and find that picture one more time so I can have it up
And he hits Strange
as
with a
ready to go.
stare. You son of a burn! And once he sees all of Strange's sins, Johnny realizes that it was, in fact, not the devil. It was Stephen Strange. He looks down at the now dead
And
Strange.
my brother here.
And he's screwed up. He's
Can we
screwed
find
up.
that one?
He tries to give him chest compressions, calling out that he needs him to breathe. "You need to come back. I don't have the kind of power to help you, Strange." And in a flash of white light, a woman appears, telling Johnny, "You have more power than you know. More power than any human should have." The fires of vengeance go out. Johnny looks up. "Are you an angel?" "To some, but to Stephen I am simply a friend." She lands and she begins to cast her spells, hoping to revive him. "I'm sorry. I thought it was Lucifer. I didn't know." She looks at him. "There is much that you do not know." So Johnny lets the fires rage and the fires of vengeance reignite. "Do you know what's going on? What is Lucifer doing? What did he mean by 665 chances?" "I cannot involve myself in this, Johnny." He flings the chains around the angel's neck. "Too late. How dare you? I want answers. You want vengeance." "Exactly!" "You poor soul. You know where this path will lead you?" "Yes. I've been there and back, and I brought the devil with me. And you know."
Sorry, it's just taking me a bit of time, guys. I'm trying to pull up that picture that I had from previous,
Can't stop it because
so I can
the devil can't cross into the celestial
sort of
plane.
get the
So
idea
he
that I
walks
had,
fully intact.
because I've got
The
a few
devil
Nicole,
was
few
broken.
video,
It's set
few
around
ideas
the
from
world.
Nicole as always.
Each of those pieces landed in a recently deceased body.
Trying to pull up
One
Critter,
that
which
hadn't
is my
crossed
free
over.
app, which is where I do my
Each time you kill one of the
digitization.
pieces will get stronger. He wants you to kill him, to bring his power back to him, here on the celestial planes. Why me? Can't anyone kill him? Yes, that would work up to a point, but eventually his individual bodies will become so powerful that only you can destroy them. Well, why doesn't he just kill himself? You already know that answer, Johnny. Suicides go to hell, and he's not about to volunteer to go back. So I'll go get him and drag him down to hell myself. You said I have the power to cross the plains, right? She looks down. Yes. Then that's what I'm going to do. The motorcycle rides up to his host and Johnny Blaze hops on it. And not you, or anyone else is going to stop me. He roars off into the night, and as she cries, her tears fall to Stephen Strange's face, bringing him back to life. He rubs his head and he looks at her. "Why are you crying?" And she looks at the fiery trail. "Because he's right." I hope you enjoyed this classic Ghost Rider story. Now, we did this initial episode to see if anybody's even interested in it. And if you want more Ghost Rider, if you want it on a weekly basis, then give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and click our playlist where we tell you more Ghost Rider stories. It was truly epic, and it's one of my favorite Ghost Rider classic storylines. Don't forget to check it all out by sticking around on this channel, and I'll see you next time right here.
The next 45 minutes could change my life forever. My name is Dustin. I am 36. Today is the most important day of my life. I'm very nervous about it. The role that I'm going for could be the life-changing career.
I realised there was adverts. Give me a second.
And
Sorry this is taking me so long, guys. Oh god, there's another advert. That's good, isn't it? I'm just checking everything's good because I did have real big problems earlier on today.
I told you after we were done with the Hulk we would bring back Ghost Rider. Well, Johnny Blaze is here again, and this time he's going to be fighting the Beast of Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman of Illinois. Yeah, just play the video.
I'm trying to put that picture. My critter file doesn't seem to be wanting to open, which is always good.
The small town of Sleepy Hollow. The people enjoyed a nice
Taking
quiet
its
lunch.
time.
And on this night, the young man Cameron brings...
And that's how I pull up all my
or at
pictures.
least, that's what she thinks. As Cameron passes by Emily's house, Emily tells Cameron that he just missed the turn, and Cameron says that
What you want to do is just going to carry on. I think Nicole's left us again.
Emily says that she really needs to get
So I'll just go in and do whatever I like, really, then. And get on as much as I can
She
today.
might as well go along with it. Once Cameron gets out of the car, Emily locks the doors, asking, "Please, just take me home. This isn't how I wanted the night to end." And suddenly there's a loud noise and a flash of light, and Emily grabs her phone, shouting, "I'm gonna call my dad!" However, as she looks back up the window, she sees Cameron standing there, and then he calls over. She gets out of the car and she screams as she looks at Cameron's decapitated head laying next to his body. The next morning, Sheriff Harry O'Connor, the godfather to Cameron, and an old partner's son stops by the hospital to visit Emily. Harry asks how she's doing, and Harry's father tells him that they've been keeping her sedated. Just then, she wakes back up screaming, trying to break the straps, keeping her
It's best
down,
to sort of lay
for her
down your
father.
basic shapes
Tears fill
first,
the pair's
guys.
eyes, seeing their daughter just like this, and Harry begins to
Because
undo
then
the straps.
you know what
Emily's mother
you wear
says
and
the nurse
what
said not
you
to,
want.
and then she stops, telling Harry, "Thank you." As the parents
Body
step out, Harry
shape
says that he's
comes
given
in
3 minutes. He'd
very
like to talk to her
slowly
alone.
as you put
Once
your
the door
shapes in.
shuts, Harry leans back
Normally
in
I'll
bed
put
and
like
he's on Emily.
a,
I just want to tell you
because it's
something.
male, I'll give him like a
He got
breastplate
himself
sort
in
of area.
trouble about a year ago when he tried
And
to
as
force
this
himself
would be
onto
the
a girl.
stomach
That
area.
being said, it's completely okay to have defended yourself.
Because then you can
If-
sort of build
but
on
before you
there
finish,
where
Emily
the arms
tells
are
him,
going to be, how
"Stop
muscular
now."
he's going to be.
Harry sighs, stating, "Then just tell me what did happen."
Basic circles and
A short
basic
while later,
squares and
Harry leaves to
rectangles and
investigate
things like
what
that.
happened. He receives a call from his golfing buddy Archie. Harry answers, stating that he's a little busy at the moment, but Archie tells him, "Actually, we found the fella out here on the course. He's got no ID and there's blood all over his clothes." Harry spins back around and he heads over to the country club to find that man, who actually happens
Again,
to be
it's
Johnny Blaze.
good. I'm trying to
As
avoid
Harry
having
pushes
legs
him
on
into the
there.
locker room,
So I'm going
tells
to
the other
be
men
putting
that
a little
he's
bit more of a
going to
scene to this one.
in private.
It will be
Harry then reaches into
some
a locker,
flames in front of
grabbing a
him,
golf
where
club.
he's just sort of
He says,
standing in
"Those
the
men must have
flames and
really roughed you up,
sort of
huh?"
thing. I
Johnny
am
rubs
the
his head,
angel of
telling
death, and I have come
"No,
to
those
take
guys didn't do
you.
anything to me." And Harry tells him, "Yeah, sure
Sort
they
of,
did."
look.
He shuts the locker. Johnny asks, "Under arrest? Because if not, I'm gonna go." Harry says, "You're free to try." And then he shouts, "Drop the weapon! Do it now!" Johnny asks him, "What are you talking about? I don't
Maybe
even
give him
have one." But
more of
before
a
he can
bone
finish,
wing as
Harry hits
well
him with a
on
club.
this one.
After a few more hits, Harry asks, "Where did the blood come from?" And Johnny tells him, "I'm not sure. I guess it's mine." And Harry tells him, "Wrong answer!" Then he hits him again and he asks, "What do you know?" Johnny looks up with fire in his
Just
eyes,
putting basic
stating,
shapes
"You
in.
keep beating me, something bad is going to happen, and I won't be able to stop it." Harry leans down asking him, "Oh yeah? That's how it is? Gonna get all worked up and lose control? Is that when something bad happens?" At that moment, a fiery explosion goes off, knocking Harry to the ground, and the Ghost Rider stands up telling him, "Yes." Days later, Harry wakes up in the hospital bed asking what happened. Another sheriff says actually they were hoping that he'd be able to tell them. Everything in that locker room was scorched. The only thing that didn't get burned was him. Harry picks himself up, grabbing his clothes, and the sheriff says that if he's planning on leaving, go through the back. The reporters are up front. There was another murder, too, actually. Harry grits his teeth, asking, "Were there any witnesses?" The sheriff says, "Yeah, several, in fact. They all say that the man's head was on." And Harry pauses him. "Fire?" And the sheriff says, "Everything is just so weird, right?" But when he looks back, Harry's gone. Meanwhile, over at the Levins home, Mrs. Levins sits at a table where her husband had recently been killed, asking if they could please untie her so that she can pray. The seemingly
Yeah,
dead
just sort of
jack-o'-lantern
basically
turns
putting
back,
some
telling her,
muscle
"Mom,
sculpture in.
I'm having a real
Just basic
busy
stuff.
day, and I'm trying to watch some TV." Later that night, two young boys walked
You
through
don't
the
know,
street past
perfect.
curfew.
things like that, guys. There is no perfection in this. All you gotta do is just keep trying until you find something you're happy with. Keep doing that over and over again, or copy something you've already drawn. I can't find that picture because my creative file's not working, so I'm just doing all this from memory.
One jumps into the water, and shortly after, so does the second. The first boy grabs his friend's hand and he begins to swim up to the shore.
Something I feel passionate about, which is wings
when he looks
and
back,
things like that.
he sees that he's missing his head. Jack flies down, telling the boy, "I could have let him live, but it's going to cost you your soul. Do you?" The boy reaches out and a chain wraps around Jack, pulling the body away. The flaming head falls to the ground and he tells the boy, "We'll see each other again soon." As Jack's head returns to his body, he tells the Ghost Rider, "If you didn't notice, I was a bit busy back there." The Ghost Rider speeds off through a field, dragging Jack's body until he finally stops. The momentum launches Jack forward onto the street where there's a honking sound coming towards him. A second later, a semi-truck drives back, slamming into Jack, and his body is pulled underneath and driven by all 18 wheels. The truck driver jumps out of the cab and runs back asking, "What am I going to do?" And the Ghost Rider tells him, "You're going to run very far away. Now!" As the truck driver rides off, Ghost Rider says, "The slaughter of people is tonight, Lucifer." Jack begins to laugh and he asks, "You recognize my new costume, huh? Well, there's been some optional equipment that came along with his body." Lucifer holds his arm out to reveal a wrist blaster and he fires it right into the Ghost Rider's head. The blast shatters the Ghost Rider's skull, and as it mends itself back together, Ghost Rider says, "That was a nice try, Devil, but you're only delaying the..." Lucifer cuts him off. "The inevitable? Yeah, duh. But you want to know why?" Jack's hoverboard flies over, knocking Ghost Rider in the head, and Lucifer jumps on it, yelling, "Later on, bonehead!" As the night goes on, Ghost Rider heads back in search of Lucifer when suddenly a cop
I'm doing the eyes and the mouth.
The car continues driving,
It's
and
always
then drives
best to give it like a
through
cross,
drugstore, pitting the Ghost Rider to the wall.
so you know roughly where your nose is going to be. That's not going to be his nose. That's just going to be something I'm going to put there for now. And
that wasn't me.
where his eyes correlate to his actual nose itself.
Meanwhile,
Again, it's going to be half and half. So I'm going to give him a bit more of a ghastly on the this side. Whereas this side's going to be an
Suddenly,
actual
a hand
eye.
shoots out of the graves nearby. As the night goes on, Lucifer arrives at a door and he rings the bell, telling everyone, "Be quiet. You're going to ruin the surprise." The lights inside turn on, and just as Lucifer says, "Trick or treat," a blast comes through the doorway and Harry reloads his shotgun. However, before our story got to that point, we must go back to the drugstore where Harry rammed into the Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider pulls himself up from the wreckage to answer Harry's question as to who he is. "I am the spirit of vengeance. I am the Ghost Rider." Harry points his gun, telling him, "All right, just needed a name for the report is all." But then the gun begins to melt and Ghost Rider stands up with the fires of hell burning around him. The chains wrap around Harry and Ghost Rider tells him, "If you delay me again, I will show you punishment of biblical proportions." Harry shouts, "If you're going to kill me, you might as well do it now, because I'm not going to stop coming after you." Harry's then thrown from the building as it explodes, and he's left to watch as both the building and his car burns. Just as Harry goes to call it in, he sees Ghost Rider standing there, and he asks him, "What? Have you come to finish the job?" Ghost Rider doesn't answer, and then he walks forward. Except Harry sees a transformation, and Johnny Blaze falls face first onto the ground. A short while later, Johnny opens his eyes, feeling ropes around him, asking, "Where the hell am I?" And Harry tells him, "You're in my basement. If you try to go off blaming Skull, well," he then points to all the munitions stacked up behind him. Harry says, "I don't care who you are. I just want to know what you are and why you're here." Johnny takes a deep breath and he says his name is Johnny Blaze. A long time ago, he made a deal with the devil to save the ones that he loved. Because of that deal, he became the Ghost Rider and got sent to hell. He managed to escape, but so did the devil. But not in one piece, but in many pieces. Those pieces are scattered across the globe, and they started bringing back people who died recently, possessed. Right now, I'm chasing the devil, trying to fix what I did. Any questions? Harry waits for a moment of silence, and then he asks, "What's the devil look like anyway?" Johnny thinks back, telling him, "I can't remember." And then the Ghost Rider shows an image of a flaming pumpkin. Harry thinks about it for a bit, then he grabs his phone, calling his friend Ned to tell him, "Look, I know someone dug up a grave a few days ago. Would it happen to have been Stephen Levin's?" Ned says, "Yeah, actually, now the whole cemetery's all dug up." Suddenly a scream can be heard on the other line, and before Harry can do anything else,
I'm doodling.
Johnny asks, "Who's Steve Levins?" And Harry explains that he was a local boy who went bad. He left here, went to New York, where he put on a costume and started killing people for money. Went by the name Jack-O-Lantern. Except he got his head blown off by that vigilante, the Punisher. Anyway, his parents had the body sent here to be buried, and it looks like he isn't buried anymore. Harry then goes to untie Johnny, and Johnny says, "Wait, you actually believe me?" Harry starts to gear up, telling him, "I've been an officer for a long time. Been in war twice. Suffice to say, nothing really surprises me anymore. So, If you're going after the devil and one just popped up out of the ground for real, we should probably go kill him. Which brings us to the current time where Harry has blown off Lucifer's head.
I'm struggling here. What to actually put on? So let's see if I can find some images.
The undead shuffle their way upstairs, and Harry shoots into each of them, shouting, "Corpse and nothing to worry about. You're useless without orders." Lucifer tells him, "I already knew that part." And Harry says, "I wasn't talking to you." Right behind Lucifer, Ghost Rider walks up, pulling out his chain. Lucifer looks around and he says, "Looks like we've been set up, boy." Ghost Rider tells him, "They can just cover you, devil." And Lucifer says, "Oh yeah, well you're stupid." And he throws 3 pumpkin bombs. Ghost Rider throws his chain and Lucifer says, "Wow, you really are stupid." Just as Harry gets done pushing a couch in front of the door, an explosion goes off, shaking the entire house. Lucifer shouts, "I can't believe it. Do you know how hard it was for me to raise an entire zombie army? Do you even care?" Back inside, Harry gets ready to call it in when he sees someone walking towards him. Cameron. Outside, Ghost Rider and Lucifer hear Harry scream. And Lucifer says, "Looks like the sheriff just got reunited with his long-lost godson. So glad he happened to make it." Ghost Rider calls out, "Harry!" And Lucifer tells him, "Wait, I'm standing right here, and you're concerned with that guy? Really? I am very disappointed in you, Ghost Rider." Ghost Rider stares and he throws his chain, telling him, "Shut up!" But before the chain could reach Lucifer, the hoverboard shoots by, getting caught in the chains, flying into the air with the Ghost Rider. Lucifer calls out,
I don't know what to use here, guys. I mean, I've got my basic shape where things should be, but I'm not quite happy with it.
With all of his strength, he pulls on the chain until it rips down the middle of the board, and he begins to fall back down to the earth. Off in the distance, a low rumble can be heard, and the Ghost Rider's bike drives up onto a car and into the air. Ghost Rider then grabs onto the handlebars, revs the engine, and he races back to the ground. Back inside of the house, Harry grabs a fork, telling Cameron, "I don't want to stab you with this, but..." Cameron lunges forward, and even with Harry stabbing him, he turns back and grabs Harry by the throat. Harry pushes him, shouting, "That's it! You were a bad kid, you always were!" Cameron continues to push forward, but this time Harry kicks him into the refrigerator, telling him, "If you hadn't been killed, you probably would have ended up." The refrigerator rots, and then it falls onto the boy. Harry holds the refrigerator as Cameron tries pushing it off, and he stays there until the thumping finally stops. But then Lucifer steps in, telling him, "This may have been a bit of a surprise, but I have never fired a gun. All I have to do is point out at what I want dead and pull the trigger, right?" Harry tells him, "That's right. But you gotta put bullets in it first." Lucifer looks at the gun to check him, then a chain wraps around his foot and he's pulled away. The shotgun falls to the ground, going off, and Lucifer laughs, shouting,
No, I'm completely happy with how chunky he is, so I'm going to thin him out a little bit.
We did. Ghost Rider drags Lucifer through the house until he gets him into the trap, a room full of explosives. The entire house explodes in a fiery blaze, and the Ghost Rider walks right back out of it. Lucifer picks himself up, telling him, "This is a drag. I actually
You
like
can still
this
use
outfit."
your basic lines
Without
where
saying a
you
word,
were,
Lucifer shoves his arm
or
into
like a
Lucifer's
stance.
chest, pulling out his beating heart. He holds the heart up, setting it on fire, and then he puts it back into Lucifer's chest. Lucifer stumbles back, and his heart explodes, spraying fire everywhere. His head falls off of his shoulders, and then the Ghost Rider stomps on it, crushing the pumpkin into pieces. With Lucifer taken care of, Johnny Blaze changes back, and he goes to check on Harry,
Again,
who
you
hid in
just
the
put your
basement. He asks
basic
if anything's
where your
wrong.
hands,
Harry shouts, asking,
elbows,
"What's wrong?" He said, "I'm 62 damn years old." Johnny
start
doesn't
with the
look.
shoulder,
Wanted to
then
thank
to the
you for it.
elbow.
But before he can
Yeah.
say another word, Harry says,
Sorry.
"You can thank me by going hell out
Oh,
of town and never
excuse
coming
me.
back, ever." So, Johnny Blaze gets
I'm gonna
back
make
on
his
his
head a little
motorcycle
bit
and
smaller
leaves
as
the once
well.
quiet town of Sleepy Hollow. And there you have it, another Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider storyline. Now we're going to be bringing you over the next couple of weeks to wrap up the Daniel Way storyline of the Ghost Rider, where he hunts down the devil. Let me know what you think about the classic Ghost Rider, the one on the motorcycle, the one with the chain, the one named the Blaze. Let me know what you think of that, and I will see you next time right here at Comic Story. And subscribe to get the next video on Sunday.
As a creative, you know that creating great video is really
There he
hard.
is again.
We built Frame.io to have all the video you're working on and the people you're working.
It's time for Agent Venom's first major team-up. Ghost Rider, Red Hulk, and X-23. Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down to digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are within copyright problem, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Now, we are continuing our older stories of Agent Venom, but I want you guys to be aware of something before we enter into the storyline. This one takes place about 3 or 4 years ago. X-23 was simply Laura, and Red Hulk was working as a good guy. The one that you're probably all going to be asking about is Alejandra, Ghost Rider. She was a Ghost Rider that popped up during the Fear Itself event, and she wasn't around for very long before Johnny Blaze took back the power. Our story begins in Las Vegas, as Flash Thompson sits in a hotel telling Betty to stop calling him. They're finally through. After throwing down the phone, Flash tells himself that this is good. He just needs to keep her away from him. And then he turns back to the half-drank liquor bottle. Meanwhile, over at the Devil's Den Casino, Laura Kinney receives a tip that someone has made a purchase of her blood. The casino's owner, Mr. Degley, has been planning on stealing something that many have attempted to do before, and that is steal her soul. However, elsewhere, Degley and his assistant Oily make their way to the construction site. The site is guarding a giant pentagram. Oily says that it's time for them to get the party started, and then her and Degley begin their preparations. First, 100 human souls, alien flesh provided by Toxin, and the blood of a mortal who's been to hell and back. The skies begin to turn red, and Degley says now they must await their final ingredient. Just outside of Vegas, the new Ghost Rider, Alejandra, and the former Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze, sit in a cafe getting a bite to eat. As they get their food, Alejandra starts to hear them. Hundreds of cursed, sinful souls screaming out. Johnny says that that's a pretty big number. They should call a friend of his to investigate. However, as Johnny runs outside to a payphone, Alejandra has already left him behind. Back in the hotel, Flash looks at a picture of his father, thinking about how there were never really any good times, and how now he's following in his father's footsteps with the drinking. Suddenly there's a loud boom, and Thunderbolt Ross comes charging into the room telling Flash, housekeeping. Ross says that he's going to hand over the symbiote now, but without Flash to bond with, Venom starts to cover Ross. He runs back out of the room trying to pull the symbiote off of him, and just as Venom releases, Ross sees Venom caused him to run into a gas station, which then explodes. Out on the strip, Flash runs away thinking that there's no way that he can handle a Hulk right now. He needs to get away. And then from the blast at the gas station, Ross jumps down and he smiles at Flash. And he tells him, Hulk smash! Moments later, Flash is launched and shot across the city. And then over at the construction site, Alejandra makes her way closer and can hear the screaming getting louder and louder. She realizes that this device is a black doorway, something that can literally bring hell onto Earth. After jumping down, Alejandra begins to ride in the opposite direction that the device is spinning. All the while, Degley is watching and smiling. Soon the force from Alejandra's riding begins to open up the portal, and Degley calls out to her, stating that he could never have done this with any other soul, but she's just powered the centrifuge and opened the door to hell. But she should think twice about stopping, because if she does, the doorway will reverse and pull down everything into hell. During this, Flash and Ross continue to battle, but as Ross is knocked to the ground, he sees the ground is kind of on fire. He asks if this is one of Flash's powers, and Flash tells him, no, I actually thought it was one of yours. Both of them turn back and they start to see demons bursting out of the ground, and they begin to chase all of the humans, and Flash says, hell is exactly what this is. Flash quickly tries to jump in to stop one of the demons, but another gets by, and Ross gets ready with a school bus to smack it down. But back outside of the city limits, Johnny pulls up to see the fire, slowly thinking to himself that he knows what this means. Someone is making a play at the convergence. So after pulling out an amulet and placing it on the Las Vegas sign, he says that this will make a barrier that the Hellfire cannot pass. So it's time for him to step in and fix this. As Degley and Oily ride through the burning city on their chariot, Degley says that Hell's expansion seems to have been halted. Once they get back to Degley's, Oily says that it's been a long time since they've seen home, since his father cast them out. Degley's voice then begins to change, and he says, and now, all of a sudden, Hell bows to Blackheart. Degley changes back into his original form, Blackheart, and Oily changes back into a demon. She tells him that if she had to disguise herself any longer, she would claw her own eyes out. But at least they did have uses for their flesh. After the two of them kiss, Blackheart turns to an orb and says that now it's time for them to gloat. The orb begins to display an image of Mephisto, and Blackheart asks, how is his corner of hell tonight? Mephisto tells him that it's secure, though he can see that that was not a part of his plan to leave it as such. Mephisto laughs, stating, you could have uprooted all of hell, but you only managed to draw in a small, meaningless corner. Surely you didn't think to call and brag about that failure. Blackheart tells him that soon the souls of hell and earth will be his, and soon he will have more power than Mephisto, and he will torment him for eternity. Blackheart then tells Oily to bring him their symbiote warriors, and she tells them that there's a bit of a problem with that. Somebody's already gone and released them. The orb then displays images of Laura already engaged fighting the symbiotes that were created from her blood. Back outside of the centrifuge, Johnny makes his way out to Alejandra, and he tells her that he'll take over for now. She needs to hurry and find whoever is casting the spell. She says the spirits will tear him apart, but he tells her that he's made of some pretty stern stuff. He can survive for a while. Now go. Soon inside Blackguard's office, a loud crash comes out of the window as Laura jumps in asking if he's the pig who stole her blood. And then Flash and Ross burst in from the door asking if he's the one responsible for this. Blackguard looks at them and says, I am guilty of all charges. Moments later, through the other window, Alejandra storms in, and Blackguard tells everyone, you are all weak. Now the Hellions mirror cauldron will steal the impression of your soul's true form and twist it. The four heroes stand as their four counterparts and make their way out of the mirror. Blackguard tells Oily to go find out what's stopping the expansion, and just as she leaves, all of the counterparts begin attacking. Ross calls out to Alejandra and tells her to follow the butt-ugly one with wings, and whatever she needs to do, stop her, as Flash stands before the evangelist.
Yeah.
Plus, he looks kind of weak. The priest begins to shout.
Sorry guys, I'm just putting some little bit of details here and there, trying to get the idea of how I want this to be. Because I'm going to put a mask, not a mask, but a hood over him. As I think the Angel of Death does actually wear a mask, but it can be removed at any time. I'm just trying to get the shape of the body at the moment. Because he's going to be wearing robes, and he's not going to be in a heroic pose. I don't think the Angel of Death is a hero, and is the heroic sort of thing. It's here to take you to the next place.
Hell's gonna have to try a little bit better than that. X666 then stabs Laura in the back with her metal pom-pom and tells her that she's exactly what she is on the surface, a cheap Wolverine knockoff. Back with Alejandra, Acor slowly catches up to Alejandra and knocks her off her bike. He stands over her, telling her that he is the blood of the gods. He is pure retribution without their human frailties. As he cracks open the ground, a hole starts to open and Alejandra falls in. He goes on stating that her brand of vengeance isn't holy, it's just selfish mortal revenge. He then tells her that she has so much to pay for, and Alejandra says, you're right. Alejandra is a bad girl, and you may hold power over her, but Alejandra is dead, Ghost Rider calls out. Alejandra's bike rides in, and then she starts to ride over Igor as Ghost Rider, telling him, Ghost Rider is all that's left. But as Alejandra has overcome her weakness, the others are still struggling, along with Johnny, who's trying to maintain the centrifuge. Back outside of the city limits, Stephen Strange and Damon Hellstorm look at the barrier around Vegas, and Damon says, hell is coming. As Alejandra makes her way back, Blackheart taunts her, stating that once hell will spread, the spirit of vengeance will sit on my right hand. She tells him to get out of her head. Besides, she's about to snap his beloved's neck. Blackheart watches and tells her to wait, and then calls for all of the counterparts to move in on Alejandra's location. A little while later, Flash finds Ross sitting alone, and Ross says that brain matter thing knew. It made him cry out for his mother. They will not talk about this to anyone. Flash then asks if he's got a plan, and before leaping away, he tells him, soldier, I've always got a plan. Back at Blackheart's tower, X666 tells Laura that she'll be back soon. She's needed elsewhere, but until then, keep on smiling! Still wounded from before, Laura pushes her way into Blackheart's chamber, and Blackheart's voice asks if she's here to kill him. So she tells him yes. He tells her that she's welcome to try, but he does have bodyguards, and she may recognize them, since they're all made from her. Over with Alejandra, she manages to pin Oil down, but just before she can cut her head off, the rest of the counterparts appear to stop her. The priest tells Alejandra to just face it. She can't beat all of them. She belongs with them. God's spirit of vengeance she might be, but she carries a demon inside. X666 starts cheering, telling her, join us! I know an exciting sauna routine for the new members. Seconds later, Ross and Flash come crashing in, stating that they really don't care about routines. Ross then calls out for them to switch counterparts, and for Alejandra to hurry back up and catch up to Oil. The priest then asks Ross if he feels like his fists are stronger than hell, because if so, he's a fool. A blast shoots out of Ross's chest, and everyone turns to see a giant, gaping hole right through him. Alejandra shouts that she will kill them, but the brain matter being opens Alejandra's chest, telling her that there is nothing. Venom starts to take over Flash, and he tells Alejandra to just go. He'll hold the line! And she tells him that they will kill him like they did Ross and her. Venom's voice starts to take over, telling her, so they'll kill me, but I'll hold the line. Meanwhile, over at the tower, Laura fights her way through the symbiote clones of herself, and after one last slice at one's head, she focuses her attention at Blackheart. Blackheart stops her for a moment and asks if she would like to know if the clones have souls, because he knows the answer. She stops and tells him, yes. And he says, you're suffering in hell right now. You couldn't be in hell without a soul, but that's the trouble with souls. Blackguard pushes a button stating, "Souls make people stupid." And then the floor opens up beneath Laura's feet and she falls down into a pit of lava. Back outside, the priest begins to attack Flash using the pages of the Bible as he did before, but this time Venom rushes forward, grabbing the book and aiming it at the brain matter being. He then grabs the priest by the neck and begins to squeeze. The priest shouts, "You can't kill me!" And Flash tells him, "You're not real. My mind created you, so I can damn well kill you." As the priest takes his last breath, hands reach out from behind Flash and then snap. Oily reports that she won't be able to catch the Ghost Rider in time for the ambulance. But as Alejandra rides off, Blackguard whispers to her that he can put the souls back into people that she's wronged. So destroy the ambulance, and she will put right those that she has wronged. Losing more and more of her strength, she begins to crawl towards the ambulance, and Stephen Strange asks, "What are you doing?" She grabs the amulet and Damian shouts, "No, don't do it!" And then the amulet begins to burn. Ash slowly begins to fall and she says that she's sorry. And the Fury's skull fades. However, just as she grabs the amulet, everyone begins to see the lives that they wanted. Alejandra finally finds her mother. Flash sees that he has all of his limbs again and how Spider-Man offered him a place as Spider-Man. Ross leads a special group known as the Hulkbusters. And even Laura
I didn't know Nicole was back.
Logan from the lava pit.
Or is she gone again?
They turn into twisted versions of them or their loved ones dying. Everyone begins to scream out and they realize that it was all in their head. A voice then calls out to everyone asking if they know
She has
where they
exciting
are.
news.
Flash says
That sounds
they are
cool.
fighting evil.
Wonder what
Doesn't
that
make them a
news
pass
could
on this
be.
place. The voice says that they let the infernal border spread. They were already on the threshold, so there really is only one place they could have gone. Welcome to hell. Mephisto appears before everyone, telling them what really burns him, and part of his expression was that this new territory was broken into.
Oh, she is here.
Alejandra
Okay.
asks if he's competition. Mephisto says, "He's the worst kind. He's my son." Mephisto then goes on stating that he can fix this, because technically, you shouldn't be able to
Is it
die
something
in
you
hell.
can put in
So all you need to
text,
do is
or
agree
are
to
you
one
going to
condition
tell
line.
me
I will
via
get
an
back
Instagram
up.
later on?
The snot out of that boy. Flash says, "What do you need? Our souls?" And Mephisto tells him, "Actually, I kind of already have them. You are in hell, but I will call on you at a later time. So all you need to do is enter into my eternal covenant." Mephisto holds out his hand, asking if he has their vows, and one by one, they all place their hand on his. A short while later, back up on Earth, the heroes return to the world of the living, and Alejandra tells everyone that things are getting worse. Blackguard is in possession of the spirit of vengeance. But before the group can move out, the demons start to crawl out of the ground. Laura jumps in, hacking away at everything that
Tell me on
moves, and
Instagram,
once the last
okey-dokey.
one is done, everyone starts to set their new plan.
Are you gonna be
in motion.
streaming
The
your
plan will be for Laura to
book
sneak
chat
over to the
later?
centrifuge and leave a bomb to blow
Is that
up
where you'll
one
let
giant
the
spins
news
in
out,
other
or is
direction,
it
while the
something for
others
me
head back
personally?
to the tower. While Laura quietly cleans the demons out there, Blackguard begins his preparations for bonding with the spirit of vengeance. And just as he does, a giant red Hulk gets closer and closer and closer. Once he gets close enough, Ross punches through the window, knocking Blackguard to the ground. Ross jumps on top of him, but before he can continue beating on him, spikes shoot out of Ross's before allowing him to
no
do
question.
major harm. Jumps in, punching and swinging, and while Flash and Ross battle, Alejandra sneaks in and grabs the spirit of vengeance. Flash tells her to give it to him and stick to the plan. Alejandra tells him, "Screw the plan."
Kind of liking the hood. I mean, I could give it not a hood, but it's an Angel of Death.
Power am ours. However, before Venom can open the vial, Blackguard throws Ross at him, launching the two of them from the building. Blackguard then turns to
Okay,
Alejandra
so
and
it's
tells
personal
her
to me, and then it'll go viral, as in you'll tell everybody else. Awesome. That sounds really awesome. I'll make sure my phone's charged after the stream today then. It's got a picture on it at the moment,
So many schemes,
which I'm kind of copying in a sense here.
He calls out to Mephisto, stating, "Look
Well, what do you think of this so far? Because, I mean, you wanted a heroic face and you wanted a face. Well, you know I'm no good at faces.
Meanwhile, in a back alley,
Like the
Flash
head.
sits alone, holding off
Good,
the demon.
because I said
He
why.
checks his remaining ammo and he tells himself,
There's no
"Giving
face.
Hulk the
It's
symbiote's
got a
done."
skeleton type
Back
half
in the
body.
tower, Blackguard tells them, "So what you've combined? Hell's hatred fuels." But his sense is cut off when Ross fires a fire web in his face, yelling, "Vengeance!" Over at the centrifuge, Laura begins setting up the explosives as Oily grabs a hold of her. She fights back, but Oily tells her that gargoyles are versed in black magic. Alchemy, for example. She looks at her claws and sees them beginning to rust away. She then tells her how she's about to give her a little taste of her own medicine back in the alley.
When I digitize this, I aim to put flames up around him, right to sort of here,
"Come on, Stumpy.
and maybe some in front.
Back." Flash says that they kind of need that mixed up monster, but Alejandra stops him, telling him she never agreed to this. Flash then says,
Yeah, I know
"Fine,
you.
need to stop the
Is a
centrifuge
skeleton.
first."
I know
She
you
shouts that she's
wanted
not going
like
to
a
help,
heroic
so Flash points his
dude
gun at
sort
her,
of
stating,
looking
"I bet
pose,
you will
but
now." Meanwhile, Oli starts to
do you really
cut
think
and
that's
detail
Angel of
Laura
Death?
and through
Or
their
do you think
fighting,
that's
Laura
more of your
manages to
character,
look
isn't it?
for the bombs on Oily's back. Before she
Shut up, you stupid
button,
thing. What are you doing now?
Grabs Laura and bites down on her neck. Seconds later, flashing up, drive by shooting her away. They need to stop the centrifuge first. Get the spirit of vengeance back. Flash says they kind of need that mixed up.
Maybe not. As soon as I step away. I'm not in the mood. I'm not in the mood to start my comic story. I will.
That's fine, but they need to stop the centrifuge first. She shouts that she's not going to help him, so Flash points his gun at her, stating,
lots going in a minute.
Now. Meanwhile, Oily starts to cut and beat down on
I'm
Laura.
going to stand here for a second.
Laura manages to place one of the bombs on Oily's back. Before she can hit the button, Oily grabs Laura and bites down on her neck. Seconds later, Flash and Alejandra drive by shooting her away. However, while Flash is focused,
okay, so we in Bones on the wings, we've got 3 stages. From the back, which then leads
man, looks like you're screwed. Not
to
only
the talon,
jerks, someone ran
which
off
then
your legs.
that would be like a knuckle. Think of it as a finger, and that would be like a knuckle.
Flash grabs a hold of his gun and he takes a boom.
Again,
Pieces of oil start to
got
fall out
another
of the sky.
knuckle.
Laura tells him good teamwork.
And
Back over
there's
at
where
the
the
tower,
wings
Blackguard
start to
shouts,
sprout.
what can you do? Once
But I'm not going to give him too much of a wing. I'm going to be trying to keep it like we did something with Tempe on the digital version, and do bone wings. So again, you do your skeleton base first.
As the light begins to fade,
Make sure you're happy with
Alejandra
that.
says they've had their fun. Now give back the spirit of vengeance. The spirit pulls away from Venom Hall, stating, "She's the host." And once the spirit bonds back with her, she takes off. Moments later, Blaze rides up with Laura and Flash, and Venom starts to leave Ross. Ross tells Flash thanks for the loan, and a voice then says, "There you are." Everyone looks up to see Captain America, and he tells Flash, "You're coming with me." Flash tells him, "I've saved New York, you, and now Las Vegas. Will you just give me a break?" Cap stares, and Giant Man and Beast agree. Maybe they should just let him help. Flash pulls back his mask and extends his hand, stating, "There you go, the nerds have spoken." But while Flash and Cap shake, Steven asks Damon if there's something wrong. Damon looks at Flash, Ross, and Laura and sees the markings on their chests. And he says it's nothing. It's a problem for another day. And this is another chapter of the Agent Venom storyline. One of the longest ones. They're all not going to be this long, just to give you guys a heads up. But it's one of my favorite ones because you have an amazing team up and then everyone goes to fight hell. How can you go wrong with that? Don't forget to click the link down below if you want to read the full story for yourself and get the full context of everything that happened. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ComicStorian. And if you enjoyed these dramatic readings, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. And I'll see you next time right here.
I'm going to start removing some of the sketch lines now. I'm kind of happy with the picture and the way it's gone. So I don't get convoluted with other things. I'm going to get rid of some of this.
Crossman?
Yeah.
It's about your son.
He's dead.
Sorry what happened. I got mixed up in some drug deal. By the name of Mikey.
Can't use my paintbrush like I normally do. Because, and the reason is, I use that for actually doing the PVA over the weekend. If you didn't check that out, guys, we made some masks where you can use the Two-Face, so you can make your jaw move for the Halloween, because everybody's thinking of ideas. And I thought to myself, why not try and branch out there a little bit, instead of just doing a box standard thing. And it's all with cheap materials, things you can find around the house, and cheaply in the local shops.
But I really am honored.
Don't forget to check those videos. They are the previous videos to this one. So scroll down, put me in the corner, and scroll down to see what you can do. You'll see me and my son did a chubby bunny challenge with some marshmallows. My son got a little less than me in, but that's because he's got a little mouth. I kept forcing the buggers in, and we even used those mega marshmallows.
Sadly, the run didn't last that long, but it appears Marvel is giving him some more attention. They are going to be bringing him into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, as stated at San Diego Comic-Con.
And if you want pumpkins, we did some pumpkins as well.
In East
Well,
Los
I did a
Angeles,
pumpkin.
young man named Robbie Reyes begins finishing up work for the
One I had was going moldy, and I thought I'm not leaving this go to waste.
When Robbie checks it,
I'm going to have...
a little bit short. His boss tells him that it was an honest mistake. And after getting the rest of his money,
I'm going to have something
Robbie
that I
Along
can
the way,
use.
Robbie sees some street thugs picking on a disabled child. The thugs push the child out of his wheelchair and they begin riding on it. But before they can get very far, Robbie runs in, punching them to the ground and beating on them. The boy yells out, "No!" And Robbie looks up to the one that they call Guero, pointing a gun at him. The thugs then beat and leave Robbie and the boy in the alley while they take the wheelchair. The boy Robbie rescued, that was his brother Gabe. Robbie picks him up, and before leaving, Gabe tells him not to forget about his comics. The two of them head home, and Gabe tells Robbie how cool he was coming in like that. He was totally a hero. He showed those guys. And once they get home, Robbie makes dinner for the both of them. Gabe tells them how tasty the food is. While the two of them are eating, gunshots can be heard in the distance. And Gabe asks if it's firecrackers again. Robbie tells him yeah. But remember, we never go outside when we hear firecrackers. Later that night, Robbie leaves his home and he heads back to the garage. He heads back there because there's a car that he was working on. He wants to take it for a little bit of a spin. As he hops in, he tells himself, "Don't worry, I'll bring it back before curfew." He heads out to the street races where the prize is 50 grand. Even though he doesn't have his own car, he's decided to offer up this car if he loses. He really has no other option. The car is fast and he knows that he can win with it. So why not borrow it for an hour or two? The racers begin to line up, and once the flag drops, they begin to speed off. Robbie pulls ahead, but when he looks back in his rearview mirror, he sees that the other drivers have turned onto other streets. And before Robbie can see what's going on,
Taking a picture for Instagram, guys. Again, my name is Blut084, BLUT084 Art and Games. Here every day on YouTube, occasionally on Mixer, every day and night over on Instagram. Same name, different place. I do apologize that you probably can't hear me very well, but I do like to have that playlist in the background so I can concentrate.
Target being duffel bags full of pills. Once the men take the bags out, one of them lights a match and then throws it on the car, setting the whole alley ablaze. Robbie lays there, and when the fire makes its way towards him, it begins to cover him. As the skin begins to melt away, his body sits back up and a flaming skull begins to scream. The figure gets up and gets back into the car, driving off. On the freeway, the men that shot Robbie begin to shoot at the flaming car that's following them, but their bullets do nothing. One of the men then fires a rocket at the car, but as the car flies through the air, it lands back on the road and continues to follow them. The car begins to pick up speed, and once it gets close enough, the figure shifts gears and plows through the truck and off the highway. The rest of the men travel back to the facility with Dr. Zabo to drop off the pills. Dr. Zabo asks if they retrieved all of the bags, and the mercenary captain tells him yes. So with such success, we should toast to that, right? Dr. Zabo leads the captain into the back room, and then he begins talking to himself. But why celebrate when we're missing one of the bags? Of course I noticed. Then the door closes, and screams can be heard, and the rest of the mercenaries sit watching. Then the door is thrown open as Dr. Zabo bursts through it. He comes out as a
We use these ones here?
Walks up to
I
one of
fancy
the men,
little snacks, I'll pick one up.
The mercenary looks down to see an eyeball. Dr. Zabo then tells him, "He's that missing double bag." And McCallum tells him, "Where's Mr. Hyde?" Back at Robbie's home, Robbie wakes up screaming, telling himself that he had the weirdest nightmare. But since it's the next morning, he decides to get ready.
Best time of year, all the sweets are still out.
He notices something a bit different about himself. One of his eyes changed to an orange color. After he drops Gabe off, he then heads to class himself. But he's stopped by Guero asking what did he do to his face. There's no way that he recovered from that beating they gave him. Is he wearing foundation? Robbie stops and he feels his face, realizing he's completely healed. No more black eye or sore spots. Over in Hill Rock Heights, the missing bag that Zabo was looking for is actually now in the hands of Grumpy, a big-time drug dealer in the area. He's been selling those pills as rupees to people. And after selling a pill to a guy who's trying to use it on a woman in the room, a junkie comes over to tell Grumpy that he may want to know it looked like someone stole his car last night and was racing it. Once school is over, Robbie heads back to work. But once he gets there, he's shocked to see the car that he took is back in the garage and in one piece. And for his entire workday, the only thing that he can do is look at the car and wonder, what the heck is going on? Once he
I want to do
gets
something
home,
similar to that.
Bed, and Robbie heads back to the garage to take the car out again. But as he's locking up the garage, people from
I was going to go with a half and half face,
It is his car.
but I'm not sure.
Stealing that car, and they begin
Yeah,
to open fire
let
on
me know.
him. As the men
What do you
begin to
think?
shoot,
Should I do a half and half face?
grabbing the wrist of one of the men, and
Take
then
the hood
guy
up a
with
little
the
bit.
skull for a head stands there, crushing
Yeah, the hood
it.
somewhere
He then
like
punches
here.
him into the windshield of the car that they drove up in, and he kicks the knee of the other man next to him. The men all climb back into the car, terrified to begin to drive off. The figure just watches. He then looks back at Grumpy's old car, and the doors open, and he begins to give chase. But instead of stopping them, the figure drives past them, then leaving a fiery trail. Once the car stops, the figure gets out and then changes back into Robbie. Robbie looks at his reflection in the car, and he sees the skull figure, and he asks, "What are you?" And a voice responds, and it tells him, "No, the real question is, what are we? We're kindred spirits, unstoppable, everlasting, eternal friends, Robbie." Eternal? Well, not if you die again, we're not. Who died? You did, partner, and I brought you back to life, kind of like a guardian angel. So Robbie asks him, "Are you an angel?" The figure tells him, "No, what the hell's wrong with you? I'm a spirit, a human spirit that was killed by a bunch of low-life thugs, just like you were the other night, so I decided to bring you back. I'm here to help, give you the power to fight back, fight against all those gangs and bullies, even those parents that left you and your brother alone. All you have to do is trust me, and I'll show you what kind of power we can have." "But how can I trust you?" "How about I show you?" The car then begins to burst into flames, and it drives straight through Robbie. And just as the car is about to hit him, the spirit appears over Robbie, turning him back into the skull-faced man. The car drives on. "See, you, me, and this car, we're all one and the same. Get away from me, you maniac," Robbie says as he begins to run. The spirit tells him, "My name's Eli. You really can't get away from me even if you
see
try.
the flames up
This is
behind
your
him.
destiny. Are you ready to take the
It's not
wheel
gonna have
and take
wings.
the power to fight back?" Robbie
Just
tells
bones
him,
behind him.
"Let's ride." He holds out his arms, and the car begins to drive through him, putting him
Standing
in
in
the
hell or
driver's seat.
something
And
like
Eli
that.
tells him, "You made the right choice.
Then again, the angel death
Together,
doesn't
we're gonna
necessarily
be
dwell in
unstoppable."
hell. He dwells
The next day
in
after school, Robbie heads
both
off to
in
work.
and out
Yes,
and
sir.
on
The
earth.
entire garage was shot up. Eli tells him that people are rubbish, and he knows who did this. He can even help him find him. All he has to do is trust him. Robbie tells him that he does trust him, but where's the car? Over at Grumpy's home, Grumpy's men report that they found his car, but the duffel bag's back were missing. Outside of the home, McCallum and his men gather around the house and they begin breaking and surrounding everyone. And he reports back in that they found the target, and it's shoot to kill. The mercenaries start opening fire and shooting everyone in Grumpy's group. So Grumpy reaches down, grabbing a handful of the pills, and he eats them back in the garage. Eli tells me that even without the car, he could take them to it. They just need to follow the path. Some of Grumpy's men managed to get Grumpy out, but Grumpy was shot in the stomach. They rushed to the hospital in the car, when suddenly on the roof of the car, a skull begins to push out of it. Arms that appear to grab the men driving the car, and he pushes them through the roof onto the top of it. Robbie, as the skull-faced man, begins to punch and beat down the men, and then he tosses them off the side. But Robbie then hears a groan from inside of the car, and then Grumpy bursts out looking like the same beast that Mr. Hyde changed into earlier. Grumpy steps out of the wrecked car, and Eli tells him to go, destroy him, annihilate him. Look what he did to our beautiful car. Robbie charges at him, but Grumpy kicks him square in the head, and a loud crack can be heard. Grumpy then starts beating down on Robbie, but before Grumpy can finish him off, the car begins to burst into flames and starts to drive itself. The car then rams into Grumpy, knocking him away, and Robbie jumps up, grabbing him by the neck. Eli tells him, "That's it, choke him out." And then Eli notices something. Grumpy ate so many of the pills that he started to grow bigger, and he actually grew an extra pair of arms. Grumpy smashes the ground, and he walks away with the duffel bag. And Eli says, "We can't win them all, kid." Back home, Robbie decided to shave his head. Then he gets to see Eli in the mirror in front of him. And Eli tells him that our bond is getting stronger, just as they were. Over at Zabo's lab, he continues his research on the pills that he made. He begins to see the problem. The pills were not effective because they were the wrong dosage. The Hyde serum is to give someone more strength, but when he changed the formula, he accidentally changed the dosage. So once he's done changing it back to where it should be, he'll have a stable and flawlessly effective weapon. Once he's finished, he says that he's ready to make the blue pill. Later, Robbie takes Gabe out for a ride in the new car to go get some ice cream. And as they come to a stop, Robbie looks down the road to see Zabo and his men talking to Guerrero. Robbie's eyes begin to light on fire, and Eli tells him to go ahead. Give Guerrero the beating that he needs. Take back the wheelchair. They can beat him within an inch of his life. Robbie resists and decides that now is not the time. As they drive off, the conversation that Zabo was having with Guerrero was to get information on where they can find Grumpy and the rest of his crew. Zabo promised him money and power, and after giving him the money, Zabo gathers his men and heads off. Once Robbie and Gabe get their ice cream,
Gonna give it
tells
like
Robbie
a background as well, guys.
gonna
I'll get rid of that.
ruin the nice leather in this car. Robbie then tells him that he wants to move them out of this place. Gabe's not safe here. And Eli tells him
Cross
he can
there.
make that change if he wants. He can burn every single
Like a
truck.
church or something
gang
behind
hideouts.
it.
They can scorch this neighborhood's evil at its source. Robbie gets a call from work, and after a little bit of convincing, he agrees to show up for a late shift the next day. He just needs to get a sitter for Gabe. So Robbie calls up Gabe's teacher, Mrs. Venezuela, to see if she can watch him while he works, and she tells him that that's fine. So they pull out of the driveway that they were stopped in, and that's when Gabe sees a group of people fighting, and he asks Robbie, what are they fighting about? Robbie tells him, he's not sure, buddy. But Eli tells Robbie, because they're rubbish. People are rubbish. Over at Hill Rock Heights, Zabo and his men have reached where Grumpy is hiding, and Grumpy starts to beat all of the mercenaries coming after him.
Or a
Grumpy
nice
sees
cross.
Zabo, and he tells him that
Like
no one will
going-
take
go
those pills
keep with
away
that
from
cross
him.
idea.
Zabo tells him he doesn't need those pills. It's already in their veins. Zabo begins to drink a vial of blue liquid, and Grumpy asks him, what do you mean by we? And and Zabo begins to change into Hyde. He then charges at Grumpy. Once he grabs a hold of Grumpy, he rips him in half, and as it begins to rain blood, Hyde tells everyone that they have the addresses of all of the gang's hideouts. Starting tomorrow, we're going to begin wiping out every gang in the area, giving a very crystal clear message. This is what happens when you act against Dr. Zabo. You meet the wrath of Mr. Hyde. The next day at work, one of Robbie's coworkers gets a call from his wife stating that there's a gang shootout over in East Hill Rock Heights. That's where Robbie's little brother's school is at, right? Robbie tells him, of course, but Eli stops him and says, remember, Mrs. Venezuela was watching Gabe. She lives in that neighborhood. Robbie says he has to go. And elsewhere, Gabe is riding his bus to Mrs. Venezuela's house. And the bus driver looks around to see what she's driving into. A gang war with bullets flying everywhere. She tries to move out of the way, but she ends up hitting a curb, turning the bus over right next to Guerrero and his crew. Guerrero tells everyone that they need to go, but his crew stops to try and help the kids out of the bus. Once all of the kids are out and they see that there's only one left, they realize that it's Gabe. And Gabe thanks them for helping his friends. One of Gerby's men runs out of the hideout and hits Guerrero and tells him that this is all his fault for snitching, so he's gonna die right now. But before the man can pull the trigger, he's shot into McCallum, who tells him, no, I will be the one shooting him. Gabe tells him, no, you can't shoot him, but before McCallum can fire again, Robbie appears with chains circling his hands. He tightens up the chains, and in one fluid swing, he slams McCallum headfirst into the ground. He then goes and picks up Gabe, and Gabe waves, telling him, you're so cool, you saved us all. Robbie then walks over to the trunk of his car, and he begins to put Gabe into it. And soon Gabe sinks into a portal that Eli made before. He then pops out on the other side, landing in the garage. And one of the mechanics asks, why is Reyes' brother here? Somebody? Anybody got an answer? Robbie then goes back to work, taking down the rest of the mercenaries until he hears a helicopter getting closer. Once it's overhead, Hyde jumps out and lands in front of him. And he says, I remember you. Ghost Rider, right? But something's different. You drive a car now? Ha! Robbie throws one of his chains down, but Hyde catches it and slams him into the overturned bus. Hyde then picks Robbie up and he begins to choke him. You're not the Ghost Rider that I remember. And then Robbie asks Eli, who is he talking about? And Eli tells him, I don't know, but we need to think of something fast because I really don't want to die again. Soon the car races over, knocking Hyde off balance, and the two of them fall to the ground. Robbie then tries to jump on him, but Hyde knocks him away. The car then drives on top of Hyde's head, and he begins to burn out on his face, tearing up his head. Hyde then gets back up and he says, I'm done playing. And he grabs the pink pills and he starts to eat a handful of them. Hyde then grows larger and larger, but something's wrong. He's overdosing, and then he gets smaller and smaller, and he finally reverts back to Zabo. Realizing that he's won, Robbie rides into the night as the Ghost Rider, but he has one more stop to make. Guerrero and his crew sit talking about how cool Ghost Rider was. Then he appears before Guerrero. A second later, Guerrero and his crew are knocked out, and Robbie takes back the wheelchair. And that is the conclusion of the origin story of Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider with Eli. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I actually enjoyed this story when it came out, but sadly it didn't last very long. If you really, really want more of Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider, let me know. And around the launch of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, when he's going to show up, we'll do probably part 2, and I think there's a part 3 that wraps up Robbie Reyes. There isn't very much more. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know by giving this video a like. Follow me on Twitter at ComicStorian, and Instagram at ComicStorian, and I'll see you next time right here.
Saskia got a smart meter.
I got a smart
So she can
meter.
save energy every year to power her sewing machine non-stop.
If the spirit within Robbie
Did you
Reyes
get a
is the
smart
spirit of
meter?
vengeance,
Everybody
or
needs
is
a
it
smart meter. Smart meters. I would recommend one though, guys.
Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I hop into a demon-controlled car and I drive into battle before finding your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and breaking them down into digestible bites. Then I finish humanity that to you. All alterations to the Phanos text and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Damn it, I turned into Ghost Rider again. At the end of her last chapter, Robbie Reyes was given a chance to come back to life with the help of the spirit named Eli. Robbie was given many abilities, and he found himself in a fight with a pill manufacturing man going by the name of Dr. Calvin Zabo, aka Mr. Hyde. At the end of their battle, Robbie managed to defeat Zabo and finally accepted the power that Eli had given him. And then late one night, Robbie sits with two other street racers as Robbie begins to count his winnings from that evening. Eli says, "You are grossly misusing our powers. You should be punishing the night scum, not sitting idly by like this." The next morning, the news reports of the battle, now currently known as the Urban Super Battle at Hill Rock Heights, and how the fight involved escaped fugitive Dr. Calvin Zamba. The reporter on scene reports that there have been many eyewitnesses to that battle, and one of the children took a photo of something interesting. The image on the child's phone shows that of Robbie in his car blazing down the street. While the news continues, a man sits in a bar watching. He sees the image of Robbie and Eli. He pays his bar tab, and he leaves on his motorcycle. Over at Lincoln High, though, Robbie attends class like normal, but after school, his teacher, Mr. Wakeford, mentions that it's nice to see that him and Guerrero are now on civil terms. While that seems to be the case, as Robbie leaves, Guerrero turns to his crew. They're all still recovering from what happened in that battle with Robbie, so they're about to be ready. And tonight's the night. Later, Robbie and his brother Gabe visit one of Gabe's counselors, Dr. DaCosta, and she mentions how Gabe has vastly improved lately. It must be all of the time that Robbie is spending with him. Gabe has seen increased mental and physical stimulation and shown amazing improvement in his motor skills and communication. So whatever Robbie is doing, he has to make sure he doesn't stop. As the night goes on, Robbie and Gabe head home for dinner, and once Gabe is put to bed, Eli says, "We need to go out and crack down on those who need punishment." But instead, all Robbie wants to do is sit and count his street race money. "You got a duty. With great power comes great." But Robbie stops him. He knows all about great responsibility. He's had it as long as he can remember, and he has no intention of becoming a vigilante. Eli tells him that he could use his power to change lives for the better. Well, Robbie considers that to be exactly what he's doing for Gabe right now. The next night, Robbie goes back to win more money from the street races, and over in Skid Row, a homeless man meets up with a group of other homeless men to show off the cool gun that he found after that fight at Hill Rock Heights. But it's not the only thing that he found. He also found a bag of pills, and they could probably make these guys a ton of money. As all of the homeless men begin to go to sleep, one of the homeless men's dog finds the bag and starts to eat the pills. But before he can stop his dog from eating more, the dog grows into one of the beasts that the pill creates. The dog attacks its owner and the nearby homeless, but that's when the man takes out his gun and begins firing on the dog. He manages to stop the dog, but as the rest of the homeless men lay lifeless, all of the nearby animals come to eat some of the pills that have been thrown around. Elsewhere, Guerrero and his crew are up to no good. The next day, Robbie runs a few errands. When on his way, he asks Eli why he's been so quiet lately. Eli tells him, "I don't care about street races. You've been wasting both of our time and completely misusing the power that I gave you." Before he could continue, though, Robbie's phone goes off, and it rings with another offer for a race over in Phoenix for a total of $5 grand. Robbie tells him that he'll be there, and then after the call, he tells Eli that $5 grand for a day's work isn't too bad. Eli tells him, "We have more pressing matters. You're wasting time. You got your revenge on Guerrero, but I still have some of my bullies to beat down." Robbie mentions that he told him to trust him, and he appreciates being brought back to life, but he's starting to think that his well-being isn't exactly Eli's priority. 5 hours later, over in Arizona, the man from the bar overhears an argument involving Robbie knocking a biker's bike over. The biker tries to start a fight, but Robbie tells the man that he's sorry, he doesn't want any trouble. And Eli says, "How disappointing." But then Robbie turns around and headbutts the biker in the chin, and then turns to punch another man with him. And Eli tells him, "That's right, get it all out." And Robbie jumps on the biker and starts to beat him. After being bloodied from the blood of the biker, Robbie realizes what he's doing, and he jumps in his car and he leaves. The man on the motorcycle watches and starts his bike as Robbie drives off. That day at school, though, Guerrero and his crew seem to have magically gotten better, as they are now all out of their bandages and braces rather quickly. As Mr. Wakeford sits at home, the news comes on again, talking about a recent string of robberies involving medical facilities. More accounts have been added to the already high number of robberies, and the robbers are leaving some sort of call sign tagging the buildings with the blue crew in blue spray paint. As Mr. Wakeford sits there, he remembers Guerrero and his crew carrying around blue spray cans. But that night over in Phoenix, Arizona, Robbie has just won his race, and the man that he beat says that their thing isn't done just yet. The man gives him an address, and he tells him, "Show up here for double or nothing. You can either be a man or you can chicken out, Robbie." Robbie, of course, agrees, and the next night, Robbie receives a call from Dr. DaCosta asking him if he'd like a new medication for Gabe that might be able to help with his recent improvements, except that the cost is really expensive. Robbie tells her yes, he's definitely interested in continuing Gabe's improvements. As Robbie sits at the table trying to figure out how to get that money, Eli tells him, "Actually, that race can fix that. All you need to do is let me have full control. I'll win that race for them." Robbie tells Eli that he's a good enough racer without him. He's got this. Later, Robbie lines up for that street race, and the drivers take off. He begins to pull ahead of the group, but in front of him appears one of the deformed animals that ate the pills. Robbie stops, and more of the animals begin to tear apart the car, trying to get at Robbie. And Robbie tells Eli he can really use his help right now, but Eli is being quiet and ignoring the situation until suddenly Eli emerges, and he begins to rip through the beast with his chains. Then he rescues Robbie. Later, Robbie did lose the race, and he pays the man, but in the back of Robbie's head, Eli tells him, "You shouldn't have given them the money. Those monsters attacked us." Robbie starts to sulk about how he let Gabe down, but Eli tells him, We can go get that money back. Gabe's doing so much better. Why ruin it, Robbie? Robbie tells him he's right, and he takes off in a fiery trail down the highway. Robbie catches up to the man, and he begins to ram into his car until the man swerves off the road, driving into the barrier. Robbie tells Eli, no, this isn't what was supposed to happen. But Robbie jumps out of the car to get the man out of his burning vehicle. But as Robbie tries to get the man to wake up, Eli tells Robbie, just take the money and leave. But as Robbie reaches down for the money, he hears a voice call out to him, and he turns, and he sees a man with a flaming skull on a motorcycle. Who are you? What the hell do you think you're doing? Robbie asks, who is that guy? And Eli tells him, I ain't got no clue, but I'm pretty sure this guy means business. Let me handle this. So Eli gets up and he jumps at the man, who is Johnny Blaze, and he starts to try and tackle him. But Johnny grabs Eli by the neck and he slams him down. Johnny tells Eli, you can't keep anything from me. I can see right through your souls. Yours is a piece of work, Eli Morrow. Murderous, sadistic, unrepentant Satanist. I have seen the foulest of souls, mortal and immortal alike.
Okay,
but nothing
guys.
like yours, Morrow. Johnny then holds
So what do you
Eli by
think?
the neck,
There's
and
the
Eli
first
manages
hour
to
done.
reach back and grab a chain, and he begins
We've
to
gone
swing
from
at
basic
Johnny,
sketch
but Johnny grabs him
to
again,
concept
slams him
idea
back down,
to
and he notices
something
Eli's
I'm
body
getting
starting
quite
to
proud
sink
of.
through the ground.
What do you think?
As he turns around,
Do you
he
like the
twists
skull?
chain around his
Do you
leg,
like the
and
hood?
Eli
Do you like
takes off in
the
car, causing the chain to
wings
rip
behind
around
it?
Johnny's
As they're going to be
leg and
bone
fling him
wings?
off the side. He quickly jumps onto his bike
And
chases
do you
after
like
Eli,
the
and when he
Celtic
gets close,
cross,
he throws
which
his
is
chain onto the
sort of
back
the
of the car.
background?
But as
I tried to
Johnny
give it a
jumps onto the
background this
roof of
time,
the car, Eli
as
starts
the
to
main
run up
figure
onto
is
the
just
roof,
got to
and he
be
kicks Johnny
just
off,
there
and
and
he
in
takes
front.
off again inside of the car. Robbie says,
He's
"That
standing
guy
on
man
like a
tells
load
him
of
to
rocks
Eli,
maybe,
he'll live in a
or
week."
some
To make
church
matters worse,
edge.
the next day,
Doesn't
a
really
sham
matter,
fight
it's
is
just the
still
foreground.
the effects of the fight with Johnny. He's having a hard time keeping himself together. He goes to take a shot, and Guerrero
We got a
jumps
few
up with him,
details
hits the
in
ball
there as
from
well. I'm
Robbie,
going to
and
give you a
knocks it
close-up
back
now.
into Robbie's face. Except Robbie
That's where I'm
isn't
coming
dead.
from.
The coach takes Robbie to the nurse's office, and as the nurse begins to let him rest, his eyes open. The nurse tells him he's going to need an hour or so. It's not Robbie who's awake. It's Eli controlling Robbie's body without being Ghost Rider. Robbie makes his way back home singing, I'm going to kill you in Spanish. And as he gets out of the car, he heads into the house. He starts to go through the drawers until he finds a hammer, and then he heads to Gabe's room. Gabe sees Robbie and he welcomes him home, but Eli tells him, quiet with all of that racket already. And he starts to knock on the floor with the hammer, asking, where did I put it? Where did I put it? And he realizes it's under Gabe's bed. He moves Gabe and he flips over the bed, knocking Gabe's chair over. Gabe tries to tell him, Robbie, you knocked my chair over. But Eli kneels down and starts to pick away at the floor. Finally, Eli finds a box with the names in it, and he starts to leave. Gabe calls out for Robbie to wait, but Eli just ignores him and leaves to the other room. Gabe starts to crawl out of his room, asking Robbie, aren't you hungry? And Eli remains silent and turns off the lights, leaving Gabe on the middle of the floor. Elsewhere, Johnny begins to do some web searches for Eli Morrow. It turns out that this man was a devil worshiper who's killed 37 people.
I could probably get around to inking this today, guys.
Over in West Hollywood. Eli walks straight into a club and breaks a bottle over a bouncer's head. He then takes the bottle to one of the other men inside, telling him, long time no see, Andre. Man, you got pretty fat. Where's Ivanov? Tell him Eli Morrow's back in town looking for payback. Back at home, Gabe tells his toy Ninja Wolf not to worry. Robbie will come back and play with him because Robbie's the best brother in the whole world. And he knows Ninja Wolf. He's hungry too. He crawls through the kitchen and he opens up the fridge, but he can't reach any real food. So he opens up the bottom shelf and begins to eat whatever he can get his hands on. Over on the highway, Johnny starts driving through traffic thinking, here I am again, trying to track down another one. I wouldn't call him a Ghost Rider, but whatever's inside of Robbie Ray is an entirely different beast. The spirit of Eli Morrow is not here to avenge the innocent. He's the spirit of a mass murdering criminal who escaped eternal damnation through satanic rituals. That's when Johnny senses Eli killing someone, and he whips around in flames, and he makes his way to where Eli is. In downtown Los Angeles, Guerrero welcomes the next member of the Blue Crew, and he stands before Zabo and the rest of the soldiers. Zabo tells everyone that their urban alliance will be turned against the gangs who are not a part of them, and they will rule this town. The Eastern Territory gangs are not wise enough to join up, so we're going to be eradicating them. Meanwhile, with the Russian mafia overall in the Eastern Territory, Ivanov's door is knocked on, and one of the guards looks at the people. Eli smiles, asking, did you miss me? But before the man can say it's Eli bursts through the doors on fire. The guards try to move Ivanov away, but on the other side, Johnny comes riding in on his bike. Eli tells Bones, and you're getting on my last nerve. And Johnny remains silent and lunges at him. Eli begins to laugh while his car rams through the wall, running Johnny over, and then with his chains, he begins to slam Johnny deeper and deeper into the ground. Eli looks down, telling him, I expected more. But then he stops and asks, what are you doing? I can't look away. Johnny begins to get up, telling him, it's the penance stare, and you can't withstand its power, Eli Morrow. Soon Eli begins to scream out in pain as his chains begin to wrap around him. And then while the dust is settling, Guerrero and his men charge in and grab Ivanov. Guerrero then throws him into a car and begins to drive off, but then he begins to ask, what is with all of the smoke? Did the cook set the kitchen on fire? Back inside of the building, Robbie tells the man thank you, now that he is in control of his body again, thanks to Johnny's penitent stare. Johnny tells him, you can just call me Johnny. There's a lot of evil inside of you, so I think we're going to need to talk. Johnny explains what Ghost Riders are, and that Eli's spirit is the spirit of a serial killer and a Satanist, which is why they seem to have similar powers. But what he needs to do right now is learn how to coexist with Eli's spirit. If not, Eli will take over again and he will hurt the ones closest to him. That's when Robbie realizes that Gabe is alone, and he tells Johnny that he needs to go. They'll talk more about it later. But before leaving, Guerrero sees the flaming person that he fought before, and he realizes that it was actually Robbie. Robbie rushes home to find Gabe huddled on the floor of the kitchen, and he picks him up. Gabe tells him, I was so hungry, Robbie. You left me alone in the dark. Robbie sets Gabe down in his chair and he tells him he's so sorry. He didn't mean to. It was all an accident. But Gabe stays silent. Over in Zabo's warehouse, Zabo tells Ivanov that they have a common enemy right now. That's Ghost Rider. But he can offer him protection. Ivanov begins to laugh, telling him there's nothing you could do. But Zabo pulls out a blue pill and tells him, just watch. All of the soldiers next to him begin to swallow the pill, and they all transform into larger, hulking creatures. They start to beat on the car, crushing it. The next day at school, Guerrero begins to follow Robbie into the halls, telling him, I know who you are. Robbie tries to say that he doesn't know what he's talking about, but Guerrero punches Robbie, and he says, I know you're the Ghost Rider. As Robbie gets a hit, and the rest of Guerrero's men jump in to beat him down. And that's when Eli says it, lose your mind, kid! Eli takes over and he jumps back up and he kicks one of the thugs in the legs. Then Guerrero turns and pulls out a knife and starts swinging. But Eli catches the blade in his hand as Guerrero stabs through it. He then grabs Guerrero by the arm and he starts to twist it and crush it. As Guerrero screams out in pain, Eli reaches out with his other hand and he slams Guerrero down by the face and begins to crush him again. But before he can do any real damage, one of the other thugs runs up and breaks a bat over the back of Eli's head. Guerrero's crew begin to pick him up, and as the police begin to arrive, Eli sneaks off before anyone has a chance to stop him. He heads home. Later that night, while Eli begins to patch himself up, he gets a call from Ivanov telling him, Eli, or whoever you are, we should meet up and have a chat. I have an interesting proposition for you. Eli tells him, no problem. I'll be there. Just don't run away this time. But as Eli is getting ready to leave, there's a knock at the door. When Eli answers it, it's his teacher telling him he handled everything in school for him, stating that he fought in self-defense. The reason he's here is because of Gabe. He picked up Gabe for Robbie, but Gabe seemed like he didn't want to come home. Is there anything going on that Mr. Wakeford should know about? Eli says, actually, there is something you can help me with, so hang on a moment. He walks back.
Oh, I'm getting a phone call, guys. Bear with me.
He begins to walk back over to Mr. Wakeford. Robbie tells him no, just as Eli is swinging with the hammer, but before he can connect a hit, his other arm reaches out and punches him instead. Eli tells Robbie to let go of his arm, and Robbie shouts for Mr. Wakeford to leave and never come back. But as Mr. Wakeford starts to get back up, Eli jumps in the car and leaves. He drives out to the bridge that Ivanov told him to come to, and he steps out stating, I'm surprised you kept your word and showed up. Ivanov tells him that he doesn't hide from Satanist purpose. Eli jumps on Ivanov and pulls out a knife. He starts trying to swing down, but Robbie is inside of him, stopping him from killing Ivanov. Before Eli can do anything else, Guerrero comes in from a nearby building, swinging down on Eli. He gets knocked away, but as Guerrero comes to stomp on his head, he gets back up, and he changes into his Ghost Rider form, launching Guerrero away. Guerrero starts to charge back, but Eli trips him over the side of the bridge and tells him, good riddance! Robbie screams out, telling Eli, I won't give in, not this time. And he begins to gain control of the Ghost Rider body, quickly throwing the chains down, grabbing Guerrero's leg instead of killing him, and flinging him back up onto the bridge. As Robbie checks on Guerrero, the rest of the blue crew jump out, and they start ganging up on Robbie, beating him with anything that they can grab. The beatings continue until the two of them fire rockets at Robbie, but before they can hit him, Johnny appears out of nowhere, blocking the explosions, asking, you need a hand? Robbie starts to get back up, and Johnny tells him, remember, harness your rage and coexist with your team, and then you can unleash the unrelenting wrath of vengeance, like a Ghost Rider. Robbie and Johnny start to ride through the crowd, swinging chains, while Ivanov begins to escape, but once it's done, Robbie and Johnny stand over the bodies of the entire blue crew. The next morning, Johnny shakes Robbie's hands and tells him, if there's anything you need, just call upon any of the Ghost Riders. For better or for worse, you're a part of the family now, Robbie Reyes. You're a Ghost Rider. And that is the conclusion to the second arc in the Robbie Reyes story.
Okay, that was my son giving me a call from school saying he's gone to the park and he's going to be home very, very soon. So I'm going to leave it here, guys. Get a little bit more detail done now, but I will be leaving it here. So if you have enjoyed today's video, guys, don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you get to see tomorrow's video, as we'll be continuing on with the Angel of Death. Again, my name is Blut084, BLUT084, Art and Games. here every day on YouTube,
Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take
occasionally
cherry-pick
on
events and
Mixer,
issues, and I break them
every
down into
day
digestible bites to help
and
you
night
understand. Then I read
over
dramatically back to
on
all
Instagram.
iterations of the panel
So again,
thing, and
guys,
this is
if you
part
have
of the
enjoyed
document.
today's
All
video,
artists, I'll be back
don't
to
forget
you.
to leave a like,
This is
and I'll
literally
see
the
you
end of the original
tomorrow.
storyline.
The colouring
That's as far as they got
and
for the
inking
cancel the series.
of this
Now they've
picture.
already announced they are bringing the series back.
Thank you very much
Now
for watching,
they
guys.
introduce an Agents of
I'll
S.H.I.E.L.D.
see
So
you
if you want more
next
Robbie
time
Reyes and you want
for
to
the
see it in an
inking
ongoing series, go
part
buy a
2
new book when it comes out.
of The
It's the only
Angel
way to get it to keep going. At the end
of
of our
Death.
last story, Robbie Reyes was struggling, learning how to handle having Eli inside of him. So much so that it drew the attention of Johnny Blaze. After the two of them took down